So if everything continues to progress in the right direction, we're 93 days away from college football here in the state of Utah. That's Utah-BYU. 95 days away from Weber State kicking it off. They're supposed to open in Laramie at Wyoming on Saturday, September the 5th. To be determined right now, but things tend to be trending in the right direction. That will be the beginning of their journey trying to win their fourth straight Big Sky title. The man that's been the architect of those at the turnaround at Weber is a friend of the program, and wasn't probably the last time he was in Wyoming was as a coach, and he played up there too. Jay Hill with us here. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Bill. What's up?
How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Back in the office finally, and we're starting to get players back on campus. Watching recruiting film and starting to feel like a football coach again.
So what's the date? I know the Pac-12 said June 15th. Is that the time for you guys too, or are you bringing them back sooner than that?
Well, we're hoping to be able to have the guys at least working out in our facility by the end of this week.
Gotcha.
Right now we're going through our COVID testing with all of our players in the screening and just trying to get them back in state. Some of them are going to have to serve, I don't want to call it quarantine, but they're going to have to be in residency here for a while before we can get them going. And it's all predicated upon what the doctors say and think for each student and what tests they need to do. But we're hoping to have the big majority of them up and running by this weekend.
Yeah, and that will, again, that will make things feel a little bit more normal. I think at this point in time and where we are with everything right now, anything that can make us feel a little bit more normal, Jay, is welcome, right?
Well, I at some point we have to get them back, and something's going to happen. Somebody's going to test positive. We're going to have to overcome that. We still have to overcome a lot of things before we can play a football game. What happens when somebody gets it? What happens to the team when there's 5 guys that get it? Because this is inevitably going to happen, and how we handle it is critical. And the further away from the first game that we can hit these roadblocks, the better off, in my opinion.
Do you feel good about the plan you guys have in place up there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The lawyers have looked at it, doctors, athletic department, administration. I mean, the plan is good, but there's no way these plans can stop the inevitable. Somebody's going to catch it, and how we deal with it is going to be the critical part.
Well, Jay, approach it just like you would approach a game plan for a football game. Have you ever coached a game where your game plan went to exact perfect seams? No. You have to adjust as it goes. This is no different than you guys getting ready for an opponent, except this time the opponent's COVID, so you're going to have to adjust to it, but you feel like you got a good plan going in, right?
Absolutely. And I think the NCAA has helped with that, and I think holding off until June was probably the smart thing, and coaches still can't be involved in the month of June, so these are all voluntary workouts right now. There's so many things they put in place that I think have helped, but again, there's going to be some stuff pop up, and we're going to have to adjust, and we're going to have to try to fix things on the fly for sure.
How have your kids dealt with it when you guys are doing these Zoom calls and you're meeting with your guys? I mean, how are they dealing with it, and are they anxious to get back to campus?
Well, they're for sure anxious to get back. I think everybody's tired of the Zoom calls, although they were productive and we got a lot done. It's different than meeting in person and getting to see somebody, being able to work out with a teammate on the field instead of just by yourself at home doing push-ups because you don't have a gym. It's just there's going to be a lot of positives that come about from just getting back together.
I agree with you. Jay Hill's with us, head coach of the Weber State Wildcats here on ESPN 700. I don't think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you had a lot of staff turnover this offseason, did you?
So Dave Schramm, our offensive coordinator, went to Utah State with Gary. Other than that, we just made one hire. We hired Matt Ayu from BYU, who was a phenomenal player in the state, high school and college. And so to get him back and to get his roots back with us is big.
So my point being there is, yeah, Dave left, but aside from that, you've got your core of staff intact. I have to guess, with as turbulent an offseason as this has been, having that core of staff intact and kind of keeping that culture intact helps you guys.
Oh, it does. It does. And I think all the way back to the years I was at Utah, and and following them since, and watching BYU and ourselves and the teams that the fans out there are familiar with. When there's less turnover, usually there's better years, just because everyone's on the same page. You hit the ground running in spring ball and fall camp, and there's some continuity there. We understand each other. The players understand where the coaches are coming from. I think that is a positive for the most part.
So as you look at your team, and let's we're gonna play a lot of this as if things. I've been saying this all along, Jay. Until somebody tells me differently, I'm planning like September 3rd for Utah, September 5th for Weber State, and everybody else. Now, if we have to adjust, we have to adjust. But until somebody tells you you're adjusting, you're planning like that's what you're going to do. You feel good about this team you've got coming back and a chance at a 4th straight Big Sky?
I do. Yeah, we got a lot of returners. We were very young last year. We lose one starter. Well, we lost one starter to graduation on offense and one that put himself in the portal. So we've got 9 returning starters on offense. We've got almost our entire defense back. We lose our 2 starting defensive ends. Everybody else is back. So, I mean, a team that returns 9 starters on each side of the ball, plus your kicker and your long snapper, I mean, we're in a good spot, and we feel good about it. The good thing is, and I guess the bad thing is, that this year's different than last year, and these guys are going to have to show up and play again, and hopefully we can improve upon what we were last year.
Yeah, but again, not having much of a spring, if any spring for you guys, not having the usual off-season conditioning, a group that knows each other like your group. Kyle and I joked about it. He goes, a year ago we would have been in great shape not having a spring football, but this year we needed it, both sides of the football, bringing in a new quarterback and 9 guys on defense. With you bringing 18 starters back on offense and defense, again, you still want your spring football, you still want your off-season conditioning, but you'd much rather have 18 guys back than, say, 8 guys back, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. And that really, it should be an advantage for the teams that do bring a lot of guys back where we didn't get spring ball. That should be to our advantage, assuming we handle it the right way.
Jay Hill's our guest, the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats right here on ESPN 700. What's the vibe around the Big Sky? Because, at the 1AA level, Jay, it's a little bit different. I mean, at the Power 5 level, the talk of getting football back was important. 1AA level, really important, but also getting fans in stands at your level is a big deal because you don't have those multi-billion-dollar television contracts. What's kind of the talk among coaches and administrators in the Big Sky about what the expectations are for this fall?
Every school is so different. One thing we've come up with and found a way to run our athletic program on a budget that's not 100% dedicated to having our stands full. And so if we can run with only half of our stadium because of social distancing or whatever, then we can still function. Quite frankly, the schools that are going to struggle big time are the ones that are 100% dependent upon filling their stands or selling that many season tickets. Those are the schools that are struggling. And most of those are maybe the group of 5 schools where football has to go because they don't have the huge TV contracts and they're relying on fans. I think the Big Sky schools, for the most part, will be fine. Obviously, there's a financial impact that's occurred with the NCAA and not having the NCAA tournament last year and all the other things that came with it. But I think we'll be fine. We're planning on playing opening week and a full conference schedule at this point. Until they tell us differently, that's how we're going, and I think there will not be much to derail it other than the COVID. So
I would agree with you there. Wyoming is your opener. When was the last time you were at Laramie? Was it with the Utes or was it before that?
No, I was with Utah. I went there once as a player and at least 2 or 3 times as a coach. It's a crazy place.
It's better to go in September than it is November, though.
You're absolutely right. And I've been there in both. I've been there when the ground was rock solid, frozen. We played a 10 a.m. game one year. The year after I graduated from the University of Utah, they played a game that was like 20 below at night. So there's crazy times. I don't think we'll see it. Maybe a little wind or something in September, but watching them on film, they have done a phenomenal job with that program. They're good on offense and defense. Coach Bull has done an awesome job with that program.
Yeah, Utah's going over there. We're going over there this fall too, so we'll probably pick. I'm sure Kyle will pick up the phone and pick your brain at some point in time after you guys warm them up on September the 5th.
Hopefully we'll warm them up.
So you mentioned the portal a minute ago, and this thing's become a big deal in both basketball, it's every sport, but basketball and football have really, really seen it. Have you guys been adversely or pro affected by the transfer portal? I'm just curious, both 1AA level, but also Weber State in particular, or maybe it's been a net negative or positive, neither way.
Well, we have not been affected much. We've had very few people transfer or put themselves in the portal. Numbers overall nationwide, there's a lot more people going in the portal. The reality, though, is there's not a lot of people transferring out of the portal. And the ones that are almost always dropping down a level. So you're not seeing a bunch of, 1AA players or FCS players moving up. You're not seeing a lot of the group of 5 players that are killing it and doing great moving up to, say, the Power 5. That's not what the numbers are bearing out. Almost all of them are moving what would be perceived as down. And that's not why people were worried about the portal. That was always going on. People were always moving down. And in a way, I actually think the portal's helped.
I was going to say, they can drop that level down and play immediately at your level. They don't have to sit out that year, right?
Assuming as long as they have 2 years on their clock, they can do that. If they only have 1 year on their clock, they can't drop down unless they get a waiver for some reason.
Okay.
Or they graduate.
Have you been able to benefit from that at all, or have you been pretty much sticking with the guys you've recruited straight away?
We have not taken very many grad transfers or guys that dropped down. We did it my first couple of years here, and most of them didn't pan out. It's the philosophy we always kind of carried at Utah. Is most of the time kids were transferring for a reason, and I saw that when we got here. Is they said, "Oh, I'm coming from a Power 5 program and coming to Weber State all for a sure start," and then they get here and think, "God, these are pretty dang good players here as well. I'm going to have to fight and battle," and then they struggle. One of the guy that just put his name in the portal for us this year he's already transferred 2 times now. This will be his 3rd transfer, and so I just have seen that we've not benefited from that very much to this point.
Yeah, there was always that worry about it, and the old theory, the grass is greener on the other side. That isn't always the case, is it?
It's not, and especially where we have such good players here. It's not like you're just going to step in here and we're just going to hand you the starting job. I mean, you're still going to have to come in here and earn it, and sometimes transfers struggle with that. They think that the grass is going to be greener, and they're just going to step in and be a star because that's what they think they are. And they still have to come in here and fight and compete and battle and do things the right way.
So I want to ask you, just based on what we've seen happening over the last week or so, what's your message, or have you had to address anything with your team or your players based on what we've seen, not with the COVID stuff, but with a lot of the protests and the things that have been going on in the country over the last few days?
Well, it's obviously a very volatile subject, and one in which is kind of worrisome to comment on because and here's the problem is no matter what you say, somebody can nitpick it, somebody can fight it from one angle or another. The reality is we all got to get along. We all got to be pushing equal rights, and we can't stick our head in the sand and act like it's not an issue. It's an issue that has been going on in our country for a long, long time, and something, quite frankly, that I don't fully understand, being a white male growing up in Utah. We don't understand. I'm grateful that I've had the insight of coaching some of the most wonderful players in my career and playing corner and being in a room full of African-American males. Those guys became my closest friends. And some of the coaches that I have on staff right now are my closest friends. And to hear the stories and to see what they've gone through and hear what they've gone through was eye-opening to me. I had no idea. And whether it's that we don't want to hear it or for whatever reason, we've got to open our eyes and start listening and hearing and fighting for equal rights and the stuff that's been out there for all these years. We can't stick our head in the sand and act like it doesn't happen in our country. It does, and we got to fight for equality and real, true, equal rights.
Well, I agree with you, and what you said to me is where it all begins. It's listening. You know, for people like you and me that haven't experienced life the same way that other people have, you've got to listen to what they've done and listen to what their experiences are, because once you listen, then you can begin to understand. Lots of talk doesn't necessarily do lots of good. To me, it's listening and then putting some of what you heard into action. That, to me, is the best way to approach things.
You're exactly right. We've got to act, and that's been my whole thing. We can post stuff out there on social media, but is that going to fix it? I don't know. We got to act. We got to put laws in place to stop what's going on. We've got to listen, like you said, and try to understand. That was my thing. Is it was hard for me to want to believe that there was this segregation, there was this indifference that occurs. I didn't want to believe it, quite frankly, because I want our country to be perfect. I want it to be great, but the reality is things have to change, because what I wanted and what was going on are different things, and we've got to fix it. And I'm committed right now. I've gone through a lot of steps right now. We're trying to find ways that we can help fix it rather than just put a statement out there on what we believe in. We got to try to fix it.
Well, here's what I tell people, too. You can't fix everything, but you can fix what's in your immediate vicinity and what's in your world. I can't fix what's going on in Minneapolis, but if I see something happening where I work or in my neighborhood, that's the place where I can begin. And it's probably the same thing with you and your program.
Absolutely. And this is something I'm grateful for the coaches that I was around. Coach McBride, Coach Meyer, Coach Whittingham. Those guys were masters at bringing races, cultures, religions. We were like a melting pot at the University of Utah and are here at Weber State of just diversity. And I think our football teams that I've been involved with and that I'm currently involved with are some of the best examples across the country. Our players love each other. They fight for each other. Sure, there's indifferences or there's things that we believe a little differently, but when all's said and done, we love each other and we fight like crazy for each other. And I know our players, our white players are outraged right now. Our black players understand that our white players have their back for the most part and want what they want. I think across the country, football is one of the best examples there is as to how we need to act. We got to love each other like we're brothers, and we go out there and fight for each other on the field and in life. If we just take that example, we can overcome this. I know we can.
I agree. Hey, before I let you go, I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but I'm going to ask you today. Of all the coaches and all the mentors you've had in your life, who's had the biggest impact on you as your career?
I don't. Pinpointing one is really hard, but probably Coach Witt. He was the coordinator. He helped recruit me. Him and Coach Anderson, just because I was in the room when I was a young player with those guys. I was in the room when I was such a young, impressionable coach, and quite frankly, a knucklehead that had to grow up. And they helped mold me and teach me, and those two probably had the greatest impact in my career for sure.
Yeah,
just being around them so long.
Because I knew you were around a lot of them, and it could have been somebody in your high school level, could have been Mac. There's a lot of guys, but I'm always curious where the biggest impact, because I'm sure they all had an impact on you, but there's probably maybe it was Coach Witt that had the biggest.
Well, and it was. I mean, just because he was like a dad, like a brother, like a friend, just a mentor. And I was around him for so long. That was huge. My biggest jump in the sport came when I went to Ricks College, just as a player. Ron Hahn had a huge impact in me, and just teaching me to become the player I wanted to be, and then that correlated into coaching as well. So to just say one is probably unfair, but I've just been really lucky to be around some of the great ones.
Well, you're a great one right now, my man. That's 3 straight Big Skies. Let's make it 4 in a row this year.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys and the support you guys give us, so thank you.
We'll talk again soon, Jay. Give the family my best. We'll talk to you soon.
Will do. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Jay Hill with us here on the Bill Riley Show today.